Welcome to Honestly Rated, and today we'll talk about one of your favorite Holly Jolly St. Nick's, Bumble Blast. Bumble Blast is a swapper core that has a Christmas variant, and since we're in December, it only makes sense to use him and his variant today. So, while we take a look at his overall gameplay and design, we're going to be seeing if, Bumble Blast can give us a nice good old present under the Christmas tree, or he's going to lump me with a fat stack of coal. But before we jump into the actual moveset, let me tell you about Bumble Blast and his lore. Bumble Blast started as a humble beehive in Radiant Mountains, where the bees would make some of the most sweetest and most magical honey out there in Skylands. And since that honey has magic, obviously Chaos wants it all for himself. And in Chaos fashion, he obviously launches attack. But before those minions could go and kind of steal everything that they could, Bumble Blast was there as their protector since they've been living there the whole time, and blast them with honey and bees and stop them from their tracks. And from then, he kind of just walked in Skylands, trying to preserve nature and protect nature just like most life Skylanders are, and then eventually joined the Skylanders into protecting everyone. The last thing that I obviously like to say is that if you want to see your Skylander potentially honestly rated next, all you gotta do is leave it down in the comments. Since again we are in December, maybe start picking some characters that have a Christmas variant. I did see a Mistletoe's Dive Clops last time, and I know there's a couple more, so if you just want to leave them down again on this video, much appreciated. And if you enjoy these type of videos, there's a playlist in the description that has every single one. And if you want to stay up to date, subscribing will help me out the most, but these also do come out every single Saturday. So, with all that said and done, let's go jump into Bumble Blast and see what the buzz is all about. Starting us off, we have the Beezooka and Honey Glob. First, I'll talk about the bees. The bees are actually a pretty cool type of mechanic where you don't have to really be perfect with your shots. The bees actually have some type of auto-lock feature when the bee kind of reaches near a range of an enemy, and they'll continuously sting the enemy for a couple more times. And there's actually a way to boost the damage of them, and that's with the honey. Now there's not much I can really say about the honey because it's also a pretty simple projectile that also does 15 damage like the bees. They're practically the same thing, but like I said, it does give a damage upgrade to the bees. But they're very not explicit about this, and I don't know why. So in the description, if you saw it in the beginning, just says that, you throw the honey and it slathers up an enemy. Doesn't say anything about a damage increase. But from you can see from the gameplay here, they are getting a 2 damage extra bonus. And I don't know if that was like a glitch or something, because later on we're going to have an upgrade that has the exact description. So I don't know why they don't tell you this. It's very awkward that they don't tell you this, and it's even more awkward that there's an upgrade that does the exact same thing and makes it like, whoa, look, this is something totally new. So we're going to see it very soon, but if you guys know the answer why, I would like to know. But yeah, you have the damage upgrade basically right off rip. Here comes that upgrade with Honey Beacon and Hungry Bees. If we get rid of the whole thing off rip where if you have a honeyed enemy, they do extra damage with the bees, it's actually a pretty good upgrade. It really gives the honey more of a value to it than it just being a standard projectile, and again it gives the player a more incentive to use the honey with the bees and not just only spamming bees when they want to. I enjoy that about it. And that goes with the other upgrade too, where anytime another enemy is honeyed, they will actually be targeted by the bees first. So let's say you have a pesky big boss guy there, or you have a really annoying projectile enemy in the back. If you can somehow get that honey onto them, the bees will only chase them until they die, or until the honey wears off. Which, again, is pretty cool in that sense, and I do like it. Again, it's just weird that that whole first one is just right off rip. And it also adds on 2 extra damage, so instead of 17 damage, you're doing 19. Which is another reason I probably think it's a glitch, and comparatively to it just being something they did to buff the guy. Last up, we have Hive Mind and Painful Stings. Painful Sting is just a damage upgrade to the bees, and even though the bees don't do a lot of damage, they do very fast damage, so just having this on just kills enemies honestly quite a bit quicker. So it's pretty cool to have as a last one, but we still actually have our ability to look at, which is Hive Mind. Hive Mind is practically just a trap version, or a very close cornered version of Honey. Does the same thing as Honey, but it knocks back, and it does a lot more damage. Like I said, Honey itself is more ranged towards anything that's really far away, while this is very up close, and it's very nice in that sense because of big groups of enemies. Bumble Blast can't really handle big groups of enemies just because he's so slow, so having something that can slather Honey on, and also knock him back for him to run, or go through them, or just go run up at them and throw another one at him, you can do, there's a lot of endless things you can do with it. So it's a very nice upgrade in that sense. And funnily enough, this will never get an upgrade later. You're not going to see one that really benefits from it. I guess technically there is one that you could say, but it's not for it specifically. But we'll get there when we get there. Onto the beekeeper path with Bee Armada and Stirred Up a Nest. Now this is where I have a little bit of a problem with Bumble Blast. Just like last week's Wild Storm, he has a little bit of a problem when it comes to his paths. I find them quite boring, and I also find them quite repetitive. So remember these top ones before we go to the bottom path. So first upgrade, we get to shoot 3 bees at once when we hold our charge move. Now that itself is pretty lame in my opinion. It just doesn't make any sense either. So with a charge move, I want it to feel like I'm charging it for something nice and cool, right? But shooting 3 bees at once, you know how fast Bumble Blast fire rate is? It's not slow. It's not like we really needed the 3 bees at one time. You could probably fire 3 bees in the same amount of time as you actually charge up the move. So I just don't find it to be anything that crazy, that cool, or for any reason to be necessary. Plus, it's not like it's going to disperse its enemy closer to anybody. Let's say you're using a honey trap, or you're just using honey in general. It's just going to go to the same enemy at once. So it really doesn't have any type of value to me. Then we go to the second upgrade, which is the damage upgrade. Damage upgrades, in my opinion, are kind of a developer's way of just kind of lazying out on abilities and not trying to make anything really that cool. Especially for Bumble Blast, just because I already found the damage of it on hard to be pretty nice. I found enemies to die semi-quickly, and it allowed me to, use the honey and everything like that. This just kind of gives people a little bit more incentive to just keep spamming bees and bees and bees instead of, trying to use honey, use the traps and stuff like that. It's just stuff that I personally don't find to make that great of a Skylander, and I find it kind of a cheap way out when it comes to developing one of these guys, because there's really cool things that you could do with them instead. Again, Honey Trap is not going to get any type of upgrade. Our Hive Mind is not going to get any type of upgrade, and there's so many things you could have done with it, even if it is adding another honey bomb, or allowing to have multiples stick around, or make it so the bees inside of that honey bomb can travel when an enemy is honeyed. Something like that. There's a lot of things you can do, but they just don't do it. Then last up we have is the Queen Bee. Obviously she had to be represented somehow, and the way they did it is that when you charge up your primary button just a little bit more, so you don't accidentally do the triple bees, she will fly towards the nearest enemy or enemy that's honeyed and lift them up into the sky, doing pretty solid amount of damage. Personally, I wish she would probably hit like multiple enemies, so multiple enemies would fly up or get knocked back or whatever they want to say. But that's more of a me thing, but I'm personally fine with how they implemented it. And personally, if this was the only charge move that they had, and they thought of some different idea to do with the bees, it would have actually been a pretty good charge move to have. I like the idea, I like what it implements, and is at least somewhat different comparatively to the other bees. Now, to be fair, I wouldn't be mad with another charge move too. Let's say they did like a wasp or something, something that's very similar to the bee species, and instead of it, hitting enemies and staying next to them, it's just a solid like sniper shot that goes through enemies, but it doesn't linger at all. That would have been pretty cool. And again, this is the beekeeper path. There's like one species of bees here. You really couldn't like look around to see what other type of bees there are, or again just put a wasp, something like that. I personally think that would have been pretty cool. But what we got is not bad, but it's just really boring. And then we go look at the bottom path. It's practically the same thing, bar for bar. Onto the honey tree path, where we have Honey Buzz Blast and Heavy Honey. I'm pretty sure you can see the parallels to the top path. First one being a charge move, which, we saw that. This one's at least somewhat beneficial, bees are coming with it, and if you shoot it at some enemy that's not honeyed yet, I'm guessing the bees will target that enemy instead of targeting a different enemy that's maybe also honeyed. So at least there's somewhat type of benefit to actually charging up the honey comparably to the top one, where I find it pretty bogus and pretty boring. It's still boring, but it has some type of redemption to it. Then the second one is a damage upgrade to Honey, and also giving it a special perk that Honey actually slows down enemies. This one just kind of makes sense. Honey is sticky, it should have been somewhere in here, so I find that pretty cool. Helps out Bumble Blast a lot since he's a slower character, and this is the one move that actually benefits the Hive Mind, the little trap bomb that you can throw out. Like I said, there's not really upgrades for it, but this one actually benefits it because the Hive Mind does actually put honey onto enemies. So in that same vein, it also slows enemies down now too. And that is also just quite amazing. You can throw out so many traps now without the worry of you getting hurt. It's a good move. Again, just pretty bland and copying right from the top. Honeycomb Bark is practically the only thing that's different from the top and bottom. Comparatively to the top path having 2 different charge moves, the bottom path had 2 different upgrades. And this one being a armor upgrade. And also the beneficial value that anytime an enemy hits you, they will get lathered in honey. And, that's pretty cool and all. and it takes a good advantage of the health that Bumble Blast has since he has a pretty high health count. So, with all that, it's pretty cool. It's really whatever. It's good, and I do find it pretty beneficially valuable, but again, nothing too spectacular or crazy to really talk about here. Last up is the Bee Pack Backpack. This allows you just to throw out bees. It just kind of happens every couple seconds or so, and it is pretty nice because when you're laying down those honey traps or you're laying down just actual honey, it does take a good amount of time. So it allows you just kind of do those things and maybe have a couple bees swarming around hitting things. Again, not too crazy and not much to talk about there either. Alrighty, so since we've taken a look at Bumble Blast and everything that he had to offer, I am ready to give you my honest rating on Bumble Blast, and that rating being a solid 3.5 out of 5. Bumble Blast himself is a pretty fun character. I find the bee bombs, the honey, and just the bees in general to be a pretty nice set of moves to have on a character. I personally think that all the points that really got docked was just the quality of upgrades. I think the top and bottom path are pretty boring, and even some of the primary ones are just kind of meh. I really don't find him to be that crazy. Even the Soul Gem is kind of bland, even though it's semi-good just because of the bees, again, coming out. It's alright. It's just alright, and I think that's where the points could have landed. If there's just like a little bit better upgrades or some more uniqueness to it, he definitely could have been a 4 and a 5, and maybe even a 4.5, somewhere around there. But just because of how boring everything kind of was, I have to dock the points on that just because it's not too engaging to play. If you take a look at Bumble Blast from the beginning to the end, you practically will see the same type of character, but with a couple of new things dabbled in. A lot doesn't change off the guy. And personally, I think the bottom path is probably the best way to go. I really like the honey slowdown, and just overall giving the honey a little bit more to it. And again, it also upgrades the bee bomb in the same type of way, even though it's not directly for it. So, yeah. With all that said and done, though, that is my honest rating on Bumble Blast. And if you want to see any other Skylanders that you want to see honestly rated, leave it down in the comments. Or remember, there's a playlist with every single one, so you can go take a look at just and see if maybe I've already did them. With all that said and done, though, thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you and everybody else in the next one. Peace. And also, if you enjoyed this, subscribing would be nice, and check out my other videos that are not Skylander related. Thank you.